I saw Plane in the theaters last night, and I gotta tell you, it's underwhelming. Here's my review of Gerard Butler's new action thriller, Plane. Okay, so the title wasn't the best, but from the trailer, it promised to be this, you know, action survival thriller of this pilot who must crash land in the middle of the jungle and save his passengers from these dangerous rebels. All while there's this mystery surrounding a convict who happens to be one of the passengers. That was the promise with big action sequences. But this just was so underwhelming, and there was so much potential there. That's where I was underwhelmed. There was so much potential. The supporting cast, they have literally nothing to do. They don't really give you a performance. It's just like, let me read these lines so we can get to Gerard Butler's action sequence. They felt like glorified extras, really. There was really nothing for them to do but be hostages. And then Mike Colter's character, even he, I mean, he has a couple of action sequences, but they fizzle. He's been transported on this plane. He's in custody of a federal agent. And so you're like, you want to know, okay, why did all of this happen? Why this plane? Why now? And then even when he's in the jungle and helping Gerard Butler's character, okay, so they're teaming up, but what you want to know, okay, so something's going to happen, something's going to, and it just fizzles. Why was he even in this film? Now, there is a really great action sequence in the movie where it's like hand-to-hand combat. It looked so authentic, and it's the best scene in the film. I mean, literally the best scene in this movie is when Gerard Butler's character is like fighting. They look like they were fighting for real. I mean, his face is gray and everything. Like, this looked real, and there's a jump scare in the film. And I was like, well, maybe this would have benefited from maybe some quick shots, like quick edits, or maybe a hand cam, because there was no rhythm to this action movie. And you know how Bourne is just like, they're really sharp cuts and sharp angles. I think this film would have benefited a lot more from that style and technique, especially because for half the movie, there's no score. This movie is so uncomfortably quiet in the beginning. In the first half, I was almost bored. What kept me awake really is that I was anticipating these plots from the 90s. There's this situation room where Tony Goldwyn is like running the situation room to try to save the passengers, and I'm like, okay, so there's some backstory. What is his motivation to want to save these passengers? Like, he really goes there to reclaim the assets. And it's like, okay, it's just like no one has any depth or reasoning behind what they're doing. And in that way, it just felt like a disappointment. They pulled back so much, and I understand if that was a budgeting constraint. I understand that, but if you're going to pull back from the action and not have any like drama with it, then this might as well have been a streaming movie. This is a theatrical release. We need to be entertained, and I really wanted to be. So that's why I was like, okay, it's going to be something. Something's going to happen, and it really doesn't happen. This was just, it was underwhelming. It really was. And if any plot is from the 90s, it's mercenaries. And you know, they had mercenaries descending on this jungle to come save these passengers, and it was just like, okay. I thought maybe there was some suspicion behind them, and it's just like, no, we're going to save the passengers. It just, I couldn't believe how disappointed I was. It's just so underwhelming. You know how they always say, okay, well, something's got to be wrong with the pilot if it had to crash land, and they go, they look into his background, and you're like, okay, we're really getting into it. Something juicy is in his background, and he was just in a fight. Like, he was just in a fight with a passenger, and the passenger deserved it. It was like there was no juiciness to it. And then, there's no depth to Mike Colter's character. There's some suspicion behind him, but it really isn't all that suspicious. If that makes any sense, it really wasn't all that suspicious. At any rate, it's underwhelming for me. This could have gone straight to streaming. You might like it, but it was just really underwhelming for me. I was expecting a whole lot more, and I should have known from the title that this was going to be mid. Planes in theaters now.